Hello? Okay. To start out, I'd like to describe my dad to you. For those of you who don't know, he is a 6'2"-ish redhead with meat on his bones, unlike some other redheads that I know. I asked my friends, and all of them said that their first impression of him was that he was very big, very intimidating, very loud, and a pretty funny guy. All of them realized that later on he is just a gigantic teddy bear that loves and protects his family. That is what I think makes a dad. He needs to be stern and hold his family together, but soft and loving to make sure that the family loves one another. He needs to be able to protect his family when the time calls. My dad has fulfilled the criteria and gone above it. He has kept me in line through the ages to make sure that I wasn't that bad kid that nobody wanted. He has been kind to me and taken care of me when I'm sick. He has joked with me and given me a good, or at least fairly good, sense of humor. He has protected me and guided me through the evil in the world, and is just so huggable that I never want to leave his arms. A few years ago, my sisters and I were separated from him. That was the worst 5 to 6 months of my life. I felt vulnerable, like my shield from the world had been peeled away to reveal a defenseless little girl underneath. My joy was gone, and I felt empty. I walked through every day a hollow shell of what I once was. I was able to see my mom, but it wasn't the same. I'm sure that you've all seen my dad do some sort of acting, and you all know that he's amazing at getting and staying in character. Well, imagine him reading bedtime stories to you. For a while, Dad read to Mandy and I every night, or at least as much as he could. And it really calmed me down from a hard day, and it still does when he can tell us the stories. That calming force had been ripped away in a flash. I couldn't smile, and I felt a hole of where he should be. Finally, the problem passed, and I was able to see him again. I felt the life surge back into me, and I felt protection from his big arms that just wrapped around me, and I knew that he would never, ever let me go. Not ever, ever again. My dream job at the moment is to be an actress. It might change, I'm not entirely sure, but my dad, he definitely helps me with that. Like I said earlier, he's one of the best actors that I know, and I look up to him for guidance in how to be the best actress that I could be. I also love math and science. When I have a question, he is one of the first people I go to. While he may take way too long to explain something that could have taken a very short explanation, he really gets the point across and makes sure that it sticks with me. I've passed many science tests because of something he explained to me in one of his speeches. My friends think that I am smart and look up things on my own, but it's only because I ask Dad something and he'll explain everything that leads up to that. It makes me feel smart. I also used to want to be a writer, and I actually still write, but none of my stories, at least I feel that none of my stories, are very good. My mom disagrees. My dad is one of the best writers I have ever known, and I think that he's still better at storytelling, but he's very good at coming up with stories. Last summer, I had a surgery, and every night he would come sit next to me and tell me a part of a story he came up with. I know that he probably has the same problem as me. I have a story, but I can't write it down, so I'll just have to tell it verbally, and everyone will have to remember it. In the few weeks that he told me this amazing story about a war against 3 or 4 races about whether magic is good or not, I realized that my dad is really creative and really theatrical. This is one small fact that helped me to relate to him even more and got me closer to him than I ever was. Yes, my dad might look scary. Yes, he is goofy. And yes, he's probably going to go with Tori to get a mani-pedi. But I don't care. He has changed my life in so many ways and made me who I am today. Even though he rambles and we may get into arguments sometimes, I would never change him for anyone, and I couldn't dream of a better dad.
So ever since Jolie came up to me on Mother's Day and questioned me about what we do for Father's Day, I've had a bug in my ear, voice in my head, and not the one that I usually argue with, because I usually can win with those arguments, telling me that I needed to ask to do a sermon. Me, the one that's phobic to get in front of everybody. If you could see my knees right now, they're shaking. I needed to do this sermon because it was something I just needed to really do. And of course, I'm following Jolie, and we all know how awesome she is, and she takes after her daddy. And that is because he has helped build her into the young lady she is today. Just as how it was important that Noah built the ark, it is important to build a person. How are those two alike? Building something does not always mean by hand. It requires a want and dedication, a love of creating. There are many different ways to build: by manual labor, using your hands, by emotion, by love, and by teaching, as in building relationships. Noah was a father and took care to build an ark with love and faith. Fathers still build with that same love and dedication. They build a person by teaching them to build things with their hands and to build relationships that last. Some fathers are not actually fathers, but father figures. I've seen many father figures in my life, from an uncle that goes vegetarian to support his niece doing a school project, a youth elder that dedicates so much of his time and love to middle school and high school kids, a father that becomes his daughter's Girl Scout leader so she can be in a Girl Scout troop, a grandfather being the grandkid chauffeur and lounge house, a father teaching kids that being a geek is awesome and that you don't have to grow up. I am the person I am today because of father figures in my life. I only get to touch on two of the most important in my life. The first man, like Noah, built with his hands. My father taught me how to build many things, something simple like a birdhouse, all the way up to building an actual house. He taught me the love and dedication of creating with one's hands. Not only did he show me how to take care of myself by building things, but he also showed me the importance of building an environment of caring. He was a scoutmaster for the majority of my life, and he built a safe place for those boys that had really rough homes, that they knew that they can come and be there. He also helped many sailors while he was in the Navy. They knew that they can come to him having drinking problems or anything, that there was a safe place for them to be as well. And we were always feeding our neighborhood. Anybody that stopped by, I guess that's one reason why I always take so much food with me on the youth trips. But it comes in handy, right, Cameron? My dad showed me that I can help build a person's life just by showing kindness and being there. But building with your heart and mind is just as important as with your hands. Creating an immediate family takes a special type of father. Landon took 2 little girls and me and built a family. He has built a home where the girls can be whatever they choose to be. He has allowed the girls to do his hair and his nails, and has showed them a confidence that they use still in their lives. He has taught the girls that brain power is fun and awesome. And even when our eldest daughter, Katie, went down a very wrong path and deeply and severely hurt our family, he has been the one pushing me to forgive and love. He demonstrates Christ's love in his everyday works, and it has wonderfully rubbed off on our other 3 girls. Not only has he built up the girls, he has built me. He showed me through patience and encouragement that I can embrace my geeky bohemian ways and grab life and enjoy it. His hard work has built us into strong and fun and creative women. These 2 men have helped to build me into the woman I am today, along with so many other father figures. Without them, I wouldn't be who I am, and I am eternally grateful. And thank you, fathers, for being my hero.
Okay. We might be done. You think we're done? No. We're done? No. Okay. Okay. When I think about the men of faith that have impacted my life, I am very proud to say that at the very top of the list is my awesome and amazing husband, who is father to my 2 beautiful children, and who I'm lucky enough to get to partner with in this life. But to be honest, for the majority of my life, my own father wouldn't have been very high on my list. He was not super involved at church, and in fact, most years he barely even attended. When he was involved, it was pretty much inevitable that at some point he would get in a disagreement with somebody, and that would be it. We were done. And then there was the fact that he was definitely not the kind of person that you were going to sit down and have a nice chat about his journey of faith with. And, I don't think I recall him ever quoting the Bible or even attending a Bible study. And on the other hand, my mom, she was a devoted churchgoer and volunteer, and she worked at the church for the past 25 years. She's led Bible studies, attended Bible studies. This is the picture of someone of faith, right, that we have in our heads. So when my father passed away quite suddenly last year, it was really hard. I struggled quite a bit with the idea of him hanging out in heaven with Jesus. It wasn't that I thought he was elsewhere. I just didn't have that picture of him because it didn't fit what I thought it looked like to be a man of faith. So the thing is that over the past year, I have had the time to pray and to ask God to help me better understand my dad and to better understand his faith and his place in God's heart. And so this is the result of what that journey has yielded. My dad, like Nolana's dad, was a Boy Scout. And by that I don't mean he was in it as a kid and got a few badges. I mean he was a full-on heart and soul Boy Scout. In fact, I only spent 3 years in the Girl Scouts, but by default, I was unofficially involved in Boy Scouts in one way or another from the age of 4 till 18 when I moved out of the house. I tied probably 5,000 poinsettia bows, and I made a gazillion smudge pots, and loincloths for Order of the Arrow ceremonies. Anybody out there? I sat through heaven knows how many Boy Scout meetings, coloring in the back of the room. And the people at the Sam Houston Area Council office and the local Boy Scout camp all knew me by name. And the thing is, though, they would never give me a uniform, which was very disappointing. I tried. But anyway, and the thing is, even when my brother and I were both out of school, that didn't slow down my dad's involvement. He stayed active until well into my married years. And he joined the Boy Scouts in 1957, and he was actively involved through 2008. That's over 50 years, which is mind-boggling when I wrote that down. He served as Webelos Cub Master, Scout Master, varsity team coach, Camporee Chairman, Head Commissioner for the District, Roundtable Chairman, OA Chapter Advisor, Assistant Lodge Advisor, District Scout Show Coordinator, and blah, 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 forever and ever. My brother was sending me the list, and I was like, okay, that's enough. Okay, that's enough. And he's like, oh, and this. In 1992, he was honored by the Sam Houston Area Council with the Silver Beaver Award for making an impact on the lives of youth through his service to his council. My dad was a Boy Scout. And so when I first read through Hebrews 11 and thought about my dad, it sort of made sense that if I had to pick one person on that list that my dad was most like, it would be Abraham. Because Abraham pretty much lived out his faith by going on a permanent camping trip, right? And if that doesn't say Boy Scout, I don't know what does. And so I realized that my dad did live out his faith by camping. Through camping, he was able to share his deep love for God's creation in nature with others and to teach them to appreciate its value and beauty. And through camping, Dad lived out his faith by planning and leading Vespers and chapel at the troop campouts. And he loved to sing Amazing Grace and Shall We Gather at the River at those. But you know, he also lived out his faith by teaching water safety and canoe clinics. So boats and water, that kind of sounds like Noah, right? Yeah, he's got a little Noah there. And he lived out his faith by adhering to a moral code that he held dear to his heart. A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And he worked diligently to pass that law on to hundreds of boys over the years. And to me, that kind of screams Moses, right? All right. So, but then, after all of this, I really realized that my dad was a little bit like all of those men of faith, but he was most like Joseph. My dad was a dreamer, and more than that, like Joseph, when his own dreams were, Joseph's dream, when he had a dream, it kind of had a sour ending, right? He told his brothers about it, and it didn't work out so great. But my dad was able to listen to other people's dreams and to help them reach them and guide them to fulfillment. As a boy, my dad dreamed of being an Eagle Scout, and in fact, he was only one badge short. And that one badge had two choices, and they both involved involvement from my grandparents. And they were great parents, but they just didn't see the importance of that. And so he never made Eagle Scout. But because of that, he decided to make a commitment to help other boys reach their own dream of Eagle Scout, even if it meant being the only advocate that they had in that dream. And over the course of his time as a Scout leader, he actively helped over 28 boys reach Eagle Scout. And he was more proud of that than almost anything. He hand-carved a walking stick he found, and he put an eagle on the top. And into it, he carved the names of all the boys that he helped get to Eagle Scout. And that was one of his most prized possessions. My dad lived out his faith as a dreamer and as a wise and devoted guide for other dreamers. And he's left a legacy of living out that faith behind. Many of the boys that he worked with now have sons of their own and are active leaders in the Boy Scout themselves. And in fact, some of them even help lead in the troop that he started over 32 years ago. My dad was a Boy Scout through and through. And for him, that was what it meant to be a man of faith. For he truly meant it when he said, "On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country." And now I have a clear picture of my dad hanging out in heaven with Jesus. I just had to realize that he would be teaching him to pitch a tent and tie a taut line hitch, Just not quite what I thought at first. Men of faith don't always look like we expect them to. Abel was a farmer. Noah built a ship. Joseph dreamed and interpreted dreams. Moses was a leader who was afraid of speaking. And David was a shepherd who became a king and a military icon. Landon is a cuddly teddy bear and a storyteller. And my dad was a Boy Scout. So the question I want to leave you with today is, who are the men of faith in your life? Unexpected, expected, and what are their stories? And then today, I really hope that all of you, as you think about that, will take the opportunity to write their names on one of these empty rocks up here and add them to the amazing list of men from this congregation that we so honor for all that you do to show us God in your actions and your words and your love.